This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Do not hinder your own children. This is Wretched Radio. Rick Thomas of rickthomas.net fame, helping us to not be a stumbling block to our own children. Keep in mind, Mom and Dad, you can't get your kids saved. You can't keep them saved, but you can lead them to the Lord without putting up obstacles for them to work through. That's why we have Ephesians telling us, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1 and 2, that children obey your parents as in the Lord. We're given that. Is that 4? Why do I want to say 6 is the full armor of God. 5 is marriage. So I'm thinking it's 4, right? Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1.
I think it's beginning of 6.
Is it 6:1 before it goes into the full armor business? Hold on 1 second. We've got to get this issue resolved. Lickety-split.
Before it goes into the full armor business.
Yes, that's what I said. The full armor business, which is a difficult chapter for me to read. Children, like I said, Ephesians 6. There it is right there. Tony, please, Joey, stop interrupting. Please.
Sorry.
Children, obey your parents as in the Lord, for this is the right thing to do. It is a commandment with the promise, honor your father and mother. But then, and now a word to you parents. Don't make your children angry by the way you treat them. Rather, bring them up in the discipline and the instruction approved by the Lord. So we can, to some degree, hinder them and cause them to rebel. You could also take a look at 1 Thessalonians 5:19. A poor parenting model will create a regressive effect for the child. That would be your Matthew 19:14, Mark 10:14, and Luke 18:16 Rexella. It doesn't draw a child closer to the Lord. They rebel. How can you do that? Well, we want to cooperate with the Lord in the salvation of the child by modeling the life of Christ before them and teaching them everything that he taught. So, here are some patterns in one or both of the parents' lives that can lead their child to rebel. Now remember, it's their response. What they do with the good news that you've given to them, they will be held accountable for that. So that you don't cause your kid to rebel, but if you sin, you're not working with the Lord. You're actually working against him. So you don't cause your child to not repent and put their trust in Jesus Christ. But at the same time, we cooperate with God, not making our kids angry. Here's some ways you can do that. Be a distant parent. Go ahead. Be distant. Don't be engaged. Be distracted. Watch out for that cell phone. I think that's going to cause a lot of anger in kids. I see it all the time out in public. Daddy, 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 daddy. Daddy, I think they've bypassed all of that. Now they just scream because they know they have to get it to an 11 before Dad will respond. Moms, too. Being a distant parent. Number 2, an angry parent. We're modeling Jesus Christ for them. Anger doesn't model well. Being abusive, being a critical parent, that's an easy one, isn't it? Mom and Dad, because here's the reality. You know better than the kids do, and you want to impart some wisdom to them. The problem is we do it in a critical way. Nothing is good. Nothing is right. Nothing is the way that it should be. Nothing is positive. Nothing is encouraging. You're going to cause your kid to rebel. A divorced parent, a preoccupied parent, an impatient parent. This is a short list of the things that can lead your child to rebel. I would like to offer you another. And this one is, I realize, very contentious. I get it. Nevertheless, we need to be wise about what we're doing with our kids. And these days, there's just not a lot of talk in Christian circles about the issue of daycare. I'm sorry. I mean, early learning academy preparatory schools. I actually saw that. A daycare was called a preparatory school. Okay. Who's the marketer behind this? There are effects to daycare. And by the way, it's not just the child. It's called burned out mother syndrome, resentment, not being able to, this kid, I just want to get to bed. I just want to get some rest. And this kid keeps me up and I've got to do all this stuff and I can't get my other things done. They get just resentful because they're trying to do everything. Anxiety. Working women with young children have the highest level of stress hormones in the world. Guilt and shame. I don't feel like a superwoman. I don't feel like I'm doing it well. Well, that's for the mom. For the baby, there's something called abandoned baby syndrome, creating anxiety. Cuddling develops the nervous system and builds trust in people. Later in life, those abandoned babies often develop addictions and anxiety disorders like obsessive-compulsive disorder, paranoia, insecure, untrusting. They can't bond because they didn't bond rightly with mom because of daycare. Depression. Babies mourn when left alone for long periods of time. Lack of touch and attention may result in a lifelong sense of unworthiness and sadness. Aggression. Many children become nasty and rebellious in their attempt to do what? Have a sense of control and win precious drops of attention. Now, what do you do with this information? You got to work through it, but don't ignore it because you could be making your kid angry. What is aggression? That's anger. We're not supposed to be doing that. They don't care what other people think. There's a lot of things that do not get developed correctly. By the way, that comes from Chabad.org, Chabad.org. They happen to have compiled a lot of the studies that have been done on the issue of daycare. There's perceived abandonment. This is a study conducted by Henry Branchen. Reports that full-time daycare for infants and toddlers is stressful because your baby will perceive you're leaving her at daycare as maternal abandonment. Furthermore, having to interact with multiple caregivers contributes to the stress, as your baby will not develop a relationship with someone she can necessarily count on seeing every day. Now, that's science. I think it's pretty obvious, but that's just the facts. Family Facts states that children whose mothers have low levels of sensitivity and leave them in daycare for more than 10 hours a week are more likely to experience attachment insecurity, which is associated with negative social behavioral outcomes, depression, social withdrawal, and anxiety, all the unfortunate side effects of a strained maternal relationship. Another study that took a look at 30 years of research evaluating the effects of non-maternal child care. They are big. Children who spend longer hours, 30 hours a week in daycare, are more likely to exhibit problematic social behaviors, including aggression, conflict, poorer work habits, and risk-taking behaviors into adolescence. Although high-quality daycare has some positive effects, it does not reduce the negative effects associated with long hours in daycare. Mothers whose children spend long hours in daycare show a decrease in sensitivity in their interactions with their child during the child's early years, which are crucial years. There's an estimated 12 million American infants, toddlers, and preschoolers attending daycare. The majority spend up to 40 hours per week there. Many start when they are only weeks old. Behavioral problems, even in high-quality daycare, produces behavioral problems. Conflictual relationships, more time spent in a center-based childcare led to reports of more conflict with parents and teacher. Could this be why we're seeing what we're seeing in schools and in the workplace? Work habits, the greater the amount of time kids spend in childcare and kindergarten, the more their teachers later reported they do not work independently, did not use their time wisely, and did not complete their work promptly in grade school. Social, emotional functioning. How skilled children are with peers and how well they solve problems with them was negatively impacted by many hours in daycare. Now, those things can make a child angry. And those issues, they persist well into elementary school. 26% of kids who spend more than 45 hours per week in daycare go on to have serious behavioral problems at kindergarten age. In contrast, only 10% who spend less time than 10 hours per week have equivalent problems. Now, again, what you do with this is up to you and your family to figure out. And I understand you might have some arrangements that actually they make sense. Family members that are involved and engaged, there's a sense of stability, maybe not leaving your home. All of those things, I get that. But let's not just brush this aside, because ultimately our particular concern is not just these effects of anxiety, depression, and aggression, but that we're making our kids angry. Well, my parents abandoned me. I can't imagine God wouldn't. They struggle with a faithful God simply because they feel like they've been abandoned 1,000 times or more. So do with this as you see fit. Mileage may vary, but whatever you do as you go about the business of making decisions about how you raise your kids, please remember only 2 commandments for parents. Bring them up in the fear, the admonition of the Lord, and do not make them angry. Until tomorrow, go serve your king.